Oh, hey guys, sorry about that. There we go. Okay. I remembered an idea of something that I wanted to talk about. And I don't know. I guess I will. Alright, so this here video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any and everything I say could be wrong. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Okay. I remembered. I wanted to do a video about this and then I forgot, and then I remembered today on the way to work. So this is what I want to talk about is spiritual death. Okay. Now I'm not an expert. You know, I can only speak based off of experience, my own experience. That's it. But so yeah, and I believe, this is just my opinion, that spiritual death is totally real. So what I want to talk about is spiritual death, and then past lives, and like rebirth or reincarnation. So that's what the title is of the video will be. Okay. And I'm totally improvising. Like I have nothing planned or anything. And so yeah, so this is all opinion. Okay. Dr. Angry Hobo opinion. The Dr. Angry Hobo's opinion here, okay? Okay, so I in my opinion, I have died spiritually in my past, and I didn't know it. I didn't even know I was, and then it was by chance and not by virtue that I was brought back from spiritual death. I know this sounds crazy, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, I am crazy too. So anyways, no, I didn't know I was spiritually dead. And I don't even know for how long, like many years, but it was, and in the Dr. Angry Hobo opinion, spiritual death is real, and it happens to a lot of people. Okay, so this might be a short video because, like I said, I'm not even prepared or nothing. But anyways, yeah, no man. So I was spiritually dead for many years, and I didn't even know it. Okay, and then I won't go too much into how I was revived, but I don't fully understand how I was. But because I have spiritually died, like I've experienced spiritual death, in my opinion. Okay. That because I have, and I've come back from that, I have empathy for the spiritually dead, like people that are spiritually dead. I have empathy for them. They're outside of having empathy. There isn't really much that I can personally do, you know. But I mean, we all can do stuff. There are things that people can do to, you know, like kind of like lead a horse to water, so to speak, with the spiritually dead, you know. But it's a really delicate surgical operation, and it's You know, it's not easy, but it requires um, effort on the part of the spiritually dead as well. Which reminds me, I'm just listening to myself talk. The book Seven Sermons to the Dead. Okay, it's the Carl Jung book. Uh, it's Gnostic Jung and the Seven Sermons to the Dead. Psychology is kind of like is like a field of bringing the spiritually dead back to life spiritually. Okay, but it doesn't like it's not like a perfected science or anything. It's kind of woo-woo shit, you know. But it really isn't, though. It really isn't. Like, if a person experiences spiritual death and comes back from it, that's when you know. That's when a person knows that they were spiritually dead. Like I said, I didn't know. When I was spiritually dead, I didn't know I was at all. And then it took a long time for me to get pulled out of that. And then once I was pulled out of it for a long enough period of time, then looking back, I could see that I was spiritually dead. And there's a really good allegory, but I have never been able to. I've heard it a handful of times, but I've never been able to speak it eloquently. You know, like but I'll try to say it anyways. But it's not gonna. I'm gonna stumble through it. But it's kind of like so. It's kind of like if you take a horse that's been broken, you know, a broken in horse. You know, you've seen them before. You see them on fucking TV shows and shit. They're like broken horses that are trained and stuff. If you take a horse that's been broken in for many years, and you release it out into the wild, you will see its spirit. Like, it's undeniable. You know, like, horses were meant to be wild, not to be tamed, you know. And when you take a horse and you break it in and stuff, like, it doesn't even. So you see, it's difficult for me to explain, but like, there's a way to explain it that's much more eloquent. But the allegory would be like if you were to take a horse that's been broken in for many years, right? Where all it knew was to serve man. That's its whole existence. A broken in horse's entire existence is to serve its owner. And you were to take that horse that had been broken in to serve its owner, and you release it into the wild, like, all of a sudden, the horse's instincts that it has been trained to ignore and deny its whole life. All of a sudden, all those instincts will come back once it's released back out into the wild, and you'll see its spirit, and you'll see like that it was spiritually dead, you know, because there's such a vast contrast, vast difference between a horse that's wild, that's in its own element in nature, and a horse that's been broken in by its master and shit. So okay, so that's kind of a way I'm trying to explain it. But yeah, no, so I have been spiritually dead in my life, you know. And like I said, I didn't know it, and then I was brought back from the dead, and and then you start having that experience. Like, I look back on like music that I used to listen to, or I still do listen to. There's a Tool song I think it's count. I think it's the song "Eulogy" from Anima, where the lyrics say, I apologize. Where the lyrics say, "I'm counting all of the times I have died." like, and not everybody experiences spiritual death, and not everybody that experiences spiritual death comes back. I would say there are far more people that don't come back from spiritual death than there are people that do come back from spiritual death. And like my experience with spiritual death, a lot of it I brought on myself. Like there was definitely like other elements at play. You know, it wasn't like 100% my fault, but I did play a part in my own spiritual death. Like, you know what I'm saying? And but the thing is like once a person is pulled out and comes out of spiritual death, it becomes evident that it doesn't even matter what the cause of the spiritual, well, it doesn't matter who the cause of the spiritual death is, because only the person who's spiritually dead can do anything about it. So it doesn't even matter. Like to try to place blame on, well, you know, these people did this to me though, and those people did this to me that contributed to my spirit. All these other people outside of me did all these things to contribute to my spiritual death. Like none of that even matters at all, because the only thing that matters is escaping like spiritual death, like reviving oneself from spiritual death. And I didn't do it alone at all. Like I did not. I couldn't. I mean, maybe I could. I don't. It doesn't. I don't really care. Like because I didn't. I didn't. I didn't do it on my own. I had help. But anyways, yeah, no. So no, in my opinion, yeah, spiritual death is real. And another thing, like, you know, I was having this conversation with this fucking guy one time, and he was a very fascinating guy, right? We were talking, and he just like kind of brought up randomly about his past life. And while he was talking about that, I realized, whoa, that's a very interesting way to phrase that. Is my past life. In my past life, when I was spiritually dead, that was my past life. I was spiritually dead in my past life. Okay. So, and then the other thing too. So that's why the part of the title of this video will be like, you know, have to do with like reincarnation and rebirth, past lives, right? So I have a past life, and the phrasing of that. What's fascinating about that for me is that references reincarnation and like rebirth and shit like this. And I never believed in that before. But once I came to realize that I have experienced spiritual death, like, and I was like spiritually dead, okay, and then and then I was kind of spiritually reborn or spiritually reincarnated, spiritually brought back to life. Once I realized I had experienced all this, it gave me a whole different like perception of concepts like reincarnation, rebirth, and shit. But anyways, and then the other thing about spiritual death and coming back from spiritual death, like, okay, for example, like with me, I could slip back into spiritual death. I totally could. And also like how spiritually alive I am is contingent upon me, like what I do in my life. what I do in my day-to-day determines how spiritually alive I am. So, and all this goes into like the concept of the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, for example. You know, and I was thinking about that too, is like when I talk about being a slave, where I'm like, I'm a slave, you know. You know, you are a slave, Neo, born into a prison. Like this is, to me, this is totally true. Okay. Now I talk about that I still am a slave, okay? And in a sense, so let's contemplate this for a little bit when we're referencing the Matrix, okay? And this all has to do with spiritual death and spiritual like rebirth and shit, okay? And being a slave, okay? So people want to reference the Matrix, okay? Because there's so much truth in the Matrix, okay? The movie, okay? But the thing is like online people talk about breaking free from the Matrix. Well, if you observe the movie The Matrix, what does freedom look like in the movie The Matrix? What does it look like? Okay? So, for example, when Neo was unplugged, he was living on the Nebuchadnezzar, wearing tattered clothes. His bedroom that he slept in resembled that of a jail cell. The food they ate was goop. Is that representative of freedom? Whereas before, he lived in a pretty nice pad. He had chicks coming over, knocking on his door, wanting him to go out to the club. You know, he had a so-called good job. So if he broke free from the Matrix, so the Matrix is him having a good job, having a nice place, babes wanting to take him out to the club. You know, if that was being a slave, well, being free is living in a jail cell, wearing tattered clothes and eating nothing but goop, like instant, you know, instant breakfast goop, cream of wheat. That's all you eat is cream of wheat. You wear tattered clothes. You live in a fucking jail cell, and you float around in a spaceship in a world that in the desert of the real, where there's like fucking nothing. Yeah, that's freedom. So you've broken free from the Matrix. If you've broken free from the Matrix, then you live in a jail cell and you just eat goop all day. You know what I'm saying? Or do you fly around like Superman, like Neo at the end of the movie? Well, you know, are you dodging bullets? You know, are you dodging, or you don't have to dodge bullets because you can just catch them with your feet? Like, what is freedom from the Matrix? If you think you're free from the Matrix, well, then why aren't you flying around in the sky? Why aren't you dodging bullets? You know, are you free? See, so like when I talk about I'm a fucking slave and I'm telling you you're a fucking slave, Neo, you're not flying around. You're not dodging bullets and catching bullets with your teeth and, you know, walking into, you know, high-rise corporate towers with a duffel bag full of machine guns and blowing people up. You're not doing that. So are you free from the Matrix or are you not? What does it mean to be free from the Matrix? Does it mean you're like Neo and you fly around in the sky? Well, if not, then what? Then how do you know you're free from the Matrix? How do you know you're not still a slave? You know, like you really got to look at the movie The Matrix. Why did Cypher decide to plug himself back in? Wasn't it because it's easier to be plugged in than it is to be free from the Matrix? It's easier. You know, just plug me back in, you know. What's up, man? Right? Just plug me back in. Make me somebody important and shit, you know? Make me somebody important, you know? I know that this steak is fake, but it tastes good, you know? So just plug me back in. What is freedom? You know, what is freedom? I'm saying. You know, why did if If Cypher was free, why did he choose to go back to his chains? Hello? Yeah. So, are you free from the Matrix? Have you broken free? What does that mean? What does it look like? Does it look like you're flying around in the sky and dodging bullets and stuff? So anyways, back to spiritual death, spiritual death. Yeah, no, I was spiritually dead, dude. And I was pulled out of that. Very similar to the allegory of the movie The Matrix, when Morpheus and the Nebuchadnezzar crew pulls Neo out. Very similar. I didn't do it on my own. I had to have the proverbial Morpheus and the proverbial Nebuchadnezzar crew, and to maintain my spiritual to maintain any sense of spiritual life, to keep myself spiritually alive, is contingent upon me and what I do. What do I do? I could do like Cypher did and just say, fuck it. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of eating fucking cream of wheat goop all day and wearing tattered clothes and sleeping in a jail cell. I'm just going to contact Agent Smith and just sell out and, just plug me back in. Make me somebody famous, I'm tired of all this freedom. If that's what freedom is, fuck you. It's contingent upon me. It's contingent upon me to continue eating the goop, wearing the tattered clothes, sleeping in a jail cell. It's contingent upon me to not do what Cypher did. When Cypher's like, fuck this. The Matrix is where the freedom is. Fuck this, eating all this fucking cream of wheat goop, wearing tattered clothes and sleeping in a fucking jail cell and staring at this fucking computer. Fuck this shit. Plug me back in, see? It's contingent upon me choosing to not allow myself to get plugged back in. So if I want to stay spiritually alive, and some days are better than others, some days I just barely scrape by, like, fuck, this sucks, But there's always a crossroads. Just like Cypher was at a crossroads. Cypher could have stayed on the Nebuchadnezzar. Cypher could have not sold out to Agent Smith, right? So it's contingent upon Cypher. Cypher gets to choose whether he wants to plug himself back into the Matrix or not. And it's the same with me when I'm talking about spiritual life versus spiritual death. I can choose to spiritually die, just like Cypher did. Or I can choose to, seek to stay spiritually alive. Spiritual death, dude. Spiritual death. And a lot of people experience spiritual death. And a lot of people come out of spiritual death. But they're faced with the same decisions as me. Their spiritual, their resurrection or reincarnation from spiritual death is contingent upon the choices they make. Because anybody who's come back from spiritual death, they're constantly faced with crossroads where they can choose to do what Cypher did and plug themselves back in the Matrix, or they could choose to stay with the Nebuchadnezzar. Again, what does freedom look like? Is it flying around? Are you flying around with a cape like Neo? What does breaking free from the Matrix look like? They talk about that on the internet. They use these catchphrases and buzz terms and all this shit. But what does it mean to break free from the Matrix? Are you flying around? I don't see. Show me take a video of yourself flying through the sky. Take videos of yourselves, all you people that have supposedly broken free from the Matrix. Why don't you take videos of yourself dodging bullets like Neo? Show me. Show me how you've broken free from what? What have you done? Are you flying around in the sky like Neo, dodging bullets like Neo? No, no, you're not, are you? No. See, I know you're not because I'm not a fucking retard. You understand? But the allegory is totally true. It's about spiritual death and being spiritually reborn and all this shit. And Cypher is a great example of someone who even though they experienced coming back from spiritual death, they chose to commit spiritual suicide anyway. They're just like, fuck it, who cares? Fuck Morpheus and fucking Neo and all these cunts. Just plug me back in, man. Fuck this shit. It's contingent upon me whether I want to remain spiritually alive or I want to sink back into spiritual death. And it's an everyday thing. Every day, I'm constantly, you know? And there's crossroads at every turn. And trust me, I know how to spiritually kill myself. I know exactly how to do that. Trust me, I do know how to do that. I've had many years practice at it. But anyway, yeah. So it's just something. And again, I'm just improvising. I have no script, nothing. I'm just shooting from the hip. You know, I come completely unprepared, totally off the cuff, to bring you the truth, the hobo truth, and nothing but the hobo truth. So anyway, there's a video that's not just nothing. That's something. But I'll tell you what, I'm getting tired of putting out meaningful content because nobody gives a shit about meaningful content. And again, this goes back to the movie The Matrix has so much truth in it. It's just like I've brought this up many times before. Why do you think that why do you think that Morpheus was so hard for Neo to find? Because, truthers are just a dime a dozen. They're all over the internet. And so Morpheus would be like, have a trending channel on BitChute and a trending channel on YouTube and have, millions of, hundreds of thousands of followers on his YouTube channel and his BitChute channel. Wouldn't Morpheus just be like easy for Neo to find? Why does that scene show Neo and he's just like totally exhausted, looking for Morpheus on the internet and he can't find him anywhere? Why do you think that is? No, these things are profound truths. Like there's a reason that Morpheus didn't have a trending channel on BitChute or a trending channel on YouTube. There's a reason that Morpheus was difficult to find. And it's obvious. There's not a lot of, it's not very cryptid when you really think about it. Yeah, the internet was a bunch of garbage. That's why Neo was exhaustively searching the internet, because he has to sift through all these fucking seas of infinite garbage on the internet to find something meaningful. And that's why what I'm saying is what's the point in doing meaningful content? You're just anybody who does meaningful content is gonna be a needle in a haystack. Anybody that does meaningful content on the internet, they're gonna be a needle in a haystack of nothing but sell-out, grifting, lying, clickbaity, shills. That's all there is all over online. I just don't have any respect for, outside of a handful of channels. It's all just garbage, dude. It's all total fucking garbage. And people don't like me saying that because they like this garbage. They love this garbage. And so when they hear me say this, they get all butthurt, dude. And they start fucking trying to troll me and shit. It's like I'll go into BitChute and make fun of BitChute, how gay it is. And I'll just get dogpiled in the comment section. if I'm like in the comment section talking about how fucking retarded BitChute is, I just get dogpiled, you know. And of course, YouTube isn't any better. It's no worse. It's no better though, but it's no worse. It's total like fucking all these platforms is just shit, dude. It's total shit, man. And there's this unspoken lie, constant 24/7 unspoken lie that like the proverbial Morpheus is so easy to find on the internet now because that's how how revolutionary the internet is. It's like totally garbage. But anyways, yeah, no, spiritual. So spiritual death. That's me riffing on spiritual death. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, stay tuned, stay informed, stay salty, and monetize.